thinking of FinTech and their interest in partnering with banks, as you know, the banks being the back end, the infrastructure, the sponsor bank. Can you? I feel like we've talked about it some, but maybe an opportunity to revisit it. Explain what is their interest in partnering with us, and what benefit can we gain as a bank from partnering with
Great question.
FinTech?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, all of them, right? So there's 81 sponsor banks, banking as a service banks in the U.S. today, doing about 400 fintechs. That's your Chime, Betterment, Current, Acorns, etc. 80% of those are basically a debit card app, right? So back in the old days, anybody remember the term issuing bank? That's what everybody called it, right? That's all that's going on here. It's nothing complicated. At the end of the day, they can build their happy, cool, shiny app. They're going to need to have an account. They're going to need to issue a debit card, and they're going to need a charter to do it, right? And so if you think about it from that perspective, it's actually, I like some of the things you said. A fintech in that regard is a complicated business customer. They want to do everything, but not on their own behalf. They want to take your features and push them down to their customers, right? Like issuing a debit card. Interesting, because that's a space to make some serious money. I've got community banks we work with that are a couple billion in assets and do 97 million cards.
What do fintechs say about the vast banks today? Do they love them?
No, very headbutt style relationship, because look, the fintech is essentially doing the technology and the marketing, right, to the end consumer. The bank becomes kind of like everybody has their compliance department. The bank is that for the fintech. They're the know people, right? And so the bank is keeping everything in check because they got the regulator on their ass, right? And so they're doing the KYC, the BSA, the AML, and they need to make sure that the fintech is collecting everything they need to be. So think about opening a new account. The fintech might want to say, we can open an account in 10 seconds. The banker behind him saying, no, you can't. We need to collect this stuff, right? So you're really keeping them in check and basically being the, they call it bank of record a lot of times. It's almost the knowledge base, like the compliance of record, right? To teach the fintech what they need to go out and collect, right?
And key in on that. That's very interesting. Less than 90 banks are doing this today.
And they are top 1% in every earnings category by 1,000 miles.
So as a community banker, I think if you're not out there, we've got a lot of stuff coming out at the Bass Association.
Yep.
There's a lot of cool stuff out there. I think we'll probably need to set up some more education on that, because Mike, I think you're keying in on something that's very important.
There's 9 banks on that board, Mike, and they are the largest institution in the country collectively, and all of them. The biggest one, you're talking about sub 10 billion because of Durbin, sub 1 to 10 billion community banks, and collectively those 9 banks are the largest bank in the country.
Imagine if we took our community bank aspect just real quick and we provided that great customer service and that experience to these fintechs. You would probably have a line out your door. I was talking to Ben, and he was telling me, he's like, it's horrible. So community bankers, we're dang good taking care of our customers. What happens if we kind of change that model a bit and say, okay, what if we're going to be really good at these fintechs and become a vast bank?
It's there. Let's go compete with JP on technology and marketing.
There you go.
That's a tall order, right? I would rather partner with somebody like a Chime who's actually having success, and I'll just do the banking stuff on the back end, right? And it just makes a lot of sense.
What are those fintechs seeing? There's so many fintechs. What are they seeing? What's so shiny to them that we're seeing such a huge exponential growth in fintechs? Like, where's that money being used?
And this is my opinion, guys, so we're off the data now and into opinion land. I see 2 things. One's customer acquisition costs, and let's just call it overall expense. So what, a couple $1 million to build a branch? Is that about right? Think about that versus running a software company. A lot easier, right? So they can throw a bunch of money and dollars at marketing to acquire customers, and you end up, when you have such a low operating overhead, it shakes out in the wash, in theory. Again, they're trying to build an entire business off of nothing but interchange, though, which is difficult. Which is why you see a lot of them going into lending and other spaces, which is of concern to all of us, right? So I think that area is really important. And then community. I think we have all made a terrible mistake in defining community geographically. And I think the fintechs figured that out, right? So I had one a couple of weeks ago called, and they were looking to do it was West Coast, and it was Filipino nurses. That was the fintech they wanted to build. I'm not a Filipino nurse, but if I was, I would be really warm to have something for me, right? Banking that's built for me, that probably has unique features to me, right? So think about different groups of people. I mean, it could be bass fishermen, right? You name it. There's actually the one in Oklahoma, they do Redneck Bank.
Redneck Bank.
That's fun, right? And so you've got a lot of, I hate to say this is another unpopular one, but it's very credit union-y. They kind of tapped into that affinity thing, but in a digital way. And that's interesting. And there's a lot of them that aren't affinity focused, that are feature focused. Think about Rocket Mortgage. And you've got Cross River Bank sitting behind Rocket Mortgage. Cross River also does Coinbase. So think about crypto. So there's a lot of these fintechs are either affinity driven or feature driven, which is kind of flies in the face of all the things that we all think about and talk about, right? We're thinking one giant app that's unified, right? And we offer everything. These people think the complete opposite way, and they don't define community as geography.